It's in the resistance and it's in the challenge and it's in the emotion where you actually grow. And if you don't allow yourself to experience that, to be in the discomfort of the moment, and if you're always trying to go somewhere else and be in happiness or joy or whatever we have labeled as things, then you don't actually grow. I can't remember the last time that I grew and became amazing when everything was perfect.
Let's turn our attention inward and explore the thoughts and emotions that shape our experiences and discover how to live with more awareness and intention. I'm David Dawson, and this is Interaction. First things first, we're going to do the icebreaker activity,
Okay.
which is a blind contour drawing.
Okay.
So, do you remember me emailing you
Yeah.
what that is? Do you want me to go over the rules?
I think we're going to do for like 45 seconds.
45 seconds we are going to draw each other's faces.
Okay.
But the rules are you cannot lift.
Can't look.
Yep. You can't look at the paper.
Okay.
You can't lift the pen off the paper.
Okay.
And I'm going to find a spot here. There we go. And the trick is to draw bigger than you think. Okay. I think I'm done.
Okay. I'm done too. Here you are.
You know what? I got my facial hair and I really appreciate that. It looks like I have a mole in the middle of my nose. Is that my nose right there?
Yeah, that's your nose up there. This is your mouth, your teeth, your lip. You got it down here on.
Good. It's all right. You
We got
you
tripping.
look like roadkill.
Wow, I do. Wow, you got it so on. I actually think mine looks like better for once in my life.
I'm glad I can let you feel good about yourself.
Mine looks like it could be in an art museum.
Great.
Yours looks like it might be on a Halloween movie.
Yes. Well, thank you for amusing me with that. So here are my first question, which I ask every guest. How would you describe your current relationship with yourself?
It's a great question, David. You sent me these questions and I read them one time on purpose because I didn't want to. I wanted to just be myself. So, how would I describe my relationship with myself? My relationship with myself is the best relationship that I have. And it wasn't always that way. I used to really struggle with loving myself and loving who I was for most of my life. And now I'm 34 now, and probably around the time when I was 30, so about 4 years ago, I really dove into who I am. And it's been an evolution over the last 4 years. And I think something that's really changed my relationship with myself is being willing to be unliked by other people so that I can be loved by myself. And in that whole idea of I'm going to be authentically me, and because that's going to bring me the most self-love, and I don't care if someone else doesn't like that, in letting go of what other people think about me has really changed my whole entire life. And it's just brought me so much freedom, and not in freedom of like, I can in like money or anything like external, but freedom in like, I'm here to live my life in a way where I go after what I desire and what I want and what makes me happy. And I have the freedom to do that. And I don't care who doesn't like that. And if you don't like that, then get off the train. But if you do, get on the train and come with me and let's create magic together and let's love ourselves, because in that loving of yourself is so much magic is created.
Wow. I've got a lot of questions based off of that. So you said at 30 is when you started to kind of dive into this. What was the catalyst for you to start diving into? Because I know some of my catalysts that helped me start this process of being interested in myself and how to improve where I was at. So what did that look like for you?
It was a bit, well, I spent my whole life up until then really living for everybody else. Probably the ultimate people pleaser. Just doing, not even realizing that I was somebody with an opinion, and just what does everybody else around me want? And I'll do that. And I'll make everybody happy. And then thinking that when everybody around me was happy, then I would be happy. But it was the opposite.
Mm.
And I didn't even realize that until probably, well, I think one of the big catalysts for me was plant medicine, and really just sitting with plant medicine, and you get to sit with yourself and you get to really see the truth is what I see with plant medicine, and see like, oh, like I just remember being in the jungle because I got my degree in nursing. I have a master's degree in mental health nursing, and I was doing, all these things for other people. And I was in so much codependency and just giving, 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 giving. And then I just remember in plant medicine. So I had done all this, I'd built up my life. I was in the relationship that I wanted. Had the career I wanted. Everything was great. And then ayahuasca just told me, everything is wrong. This isn't what you actually want. This isn't meant for you. And I was like, what? And it
So,
was
so going into it, you didn't have
no,
that inclination at all?
no. I just
Really?
thought I was going, and I was going to have the most fun ever. It was going to be so fun. That's what I thought. And it was not fun. And, but it was, and so I tried to really deny it, I guess you could say, and just ignore it. And for probably 6 months. And this was right before COVID happened. And then, and then just life happens. And I always say the universe will always give you what you need. And so that's what started happening. Everything just started falling apart. And until I was sitting there with nothing. I was homeless. I was a homeless single mom. I didn't have anything. My relationship was gone. I didn't have the house I was living in. I left my career. I quit going to school. I quit everything. And then I was just sitting there, and I was like, well, what do I do now? And I think it was in the letting go of everything that Kenzi was created.
Hmm. Okay, so this is something that I ponder, and I can early on, especially when people say let go, how I interpreted that was suppress, to kind of push the thing, these emotions or these thoughts or stories down and kind of move. And so when you say let go, what does that look like for you? Because I know that, coming from my background, that was not working and really was creating a lot of havoc long term, but I didn't know any better. And so now that I'm a little bit more aware of my tendencies, I can start to catch that a little bit more. So what does letting go look like for you, and how did you get to that idea of what that actually is?
That's a good question. Letting go to me means letting go of an expectation of what something has to look like, or what it needs to be, or how it needs to feel, or any sort of, I guess, expectation is the best word for letting go, is just letting. And I might even change it to like letting it be, right? Instead of letting go, like just letting it be without trying to control it, or trying to force something, or trying to make something work, or make something go away, or make something happen. It's like, can you just lean back? And in the leaning back, can you lean into what is actually going on, the resistance, the emotion, the feeling? Because what I've really learned through all of this becoming of me is it's in the resistance, and it's in the challenge, and it's in the emotion where you actually grow. And if you don't allow yourself to experience that, to be in the discomfort of the moment, and if you're always trying to go somewhere else and be in happiness or joy or whatever we have labeled as things, then you don't actually grow. I can't remember the last time that I grew and became amazing when everything was perfect.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever happened. And so I was just telling one of my VIP clients this weekend that I choose to live in discomfort. I choose to live in the resistance, and that's how I grow so fast.
Mm. I mean, just that statement alone can be really uncomfortable for some people to hear because we're so entrenched in escaping
Yeah.
discomfort that we're constantly searching for comfort, and so we're numbing out and pacifying in so many ways. Did you well, how did you how long did it take for you to get comfortable in the discomfort where this is now where you live?
Yeah, it took me a while. It wasn't an overnight process, but it was again like in that moment when I didn't have a place to live and I had a 7-year-old and I was like, what are we going to do? And it was I could grab at something, right? And I could try and, you know, let all the signs that the universe was sending my way, like just push them away because no, then I'll have a place to live and then I'll have and then I'll have a relationship and everything will be okay. And I don't have to grow through this, or I could just give up, or I could just say, I'm going to go live with my dad or whatever. I could have said all those things, but I said, no, I'm not going to be a statistic. And I'm going to be the most incredible single mom that ever existed because I'm going to show my little boy how to be his most incredible self. And so it's really I think a lot of my work is doing it for him and showing him like, hey, you're going to be a good man and this is how you be a good man. And I'm not a man, so I can't teach you that, but what I can teach you is how to flow through your emotions, how to feel things, how to not just shut down and how to actually just stay open and lean in and trust the process rather than just shutting down and saying no, I don't and because that's what most people do. They just shut down and they turn off and then they turn away. And it's like, and the reality of it is I learned that an emotion really lasts 90 seconds if you let it. But some people, it lasts for their entire lifetime because they resist it and they don't dare lean in. They keep trying to lean out and go away.
Real quick, you mentioned your work.
Yeah,
So we haven't even dove into that actually.
no.
And I've been watching for the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years. And I've noticed you pivot a lot when it comes to trying to figure out and course correct where you fit in to where your talents are and your strengths. So first of all, I really want to I admire that a lot because that can be a very difficult thing for me to accept because I've been doing hair for 15, 16 years. And so to start something new or to kind of um, be a beginner again in something has been so humbling and so scary at the same time because I've identified with this and this is where my comfort zone is, but I've felt this urge of like, oh man, do I want to continue to do this for X amount of more years? Is there more for me to be, exploring? And so that's when I started to kind of dabble in certain things. So how did you land on business coaching?
Yeah, so it's been quite the journey as you talked about. And I always knew that I wanted to help people make money, but I didn't have any money. And so I couldn't do that when I started. And because I was like, well, I should probably figure out how to make money before I teach people how to do it. And so I started my own business, right? I left nursing and well, I had to leave nursing. I kind of got let go. And not kind of I did I got let go. And so then I thought, well, I knew I didn't want to go back to be a nurse. And so I said, well, what do I know? And so I knew I had a master's degree in mental health nursing. I knew a lot about psychedelic medicine. So I started doing that. And so I started really helping women who were going through a lot of depression and were going through basically what I had worked myself out of. I then helped women work themselves out of through microdosing or through different modalities, yoga or breath work or different things that I had been trained in. And so I built a business that way. And then I built that business to 6 figures really quickly and in under a year. And so then I was like, okay, well, then I at the time I had kind of forgot about the whole business thing, but I had a client at one point in time and she asked me this profound question. She didn't know anything about my relationship with my mother or anything like that. And she just said, randomly, she said, "Tell me something that you love about your mom." And
Mm,
I was like, I was supposed to be coaching her. So I was like, oh, and I have a tumultuous relationship with my mother. And so I just paused for a moment and I couldn't think of anything. And I said, I don't know. And she said, there's got to be one thing. And I said, so I thought more. And I said, my mother is a badass businesswoman and she can create a business with the snap of her fingers and she turns it to gold. And she said, that's amazing. You get to choose what you take from your parents. And so if you only want to take that, that's all you have to take. And I just thought it was so
mm,
profound. And
wow.
yeah, and that reminded me, oh, yeah, I do have that ability to be this businesswoman, but I'm going to do it in such a different way than she did it. And I'm going to do it in this way that lights my soul on fire instead of, I just remember growing up and my mom, she's a corporate woman, and she would always say, I would always hear her say, they're sucking my soul out of me. And and so now I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take what I love about her because that is so much of me. Like when I look at her, there is so much similar. And so I'm not gonna, I think I because I had this tumultuous relationship with her, I shunned all of that. And I said, no, I'm going to be completely different. I'm going to do something completely different and just kind of, rebelling against anything that reminded me of her. But it was this client that really showed me, no, you get to be the best parts and you get to choose. And so that's really, then I was like, okay, well, then I had, built this business up to six figures with these women in depression and helping them out of that. And I liked it, but what I really see my superpower is really helping people who are not so much healing, but who are ready to just expand and shift identities and be like take over the world with their magic. And that's a different level of person. And someone who's stuck in depression and anxiety, they have healing to do. And a lot of times I notice people get stuck in the identity of healing. And so they heal and they heal and they heal and they heal for years and years, and their whole life becomes healing when really you could choose to step out of that and you could choose to live your best life at any moment in time.
Oh man,
And
I
and
can relate to
so
that.
that's what I did.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, then I built this business so I know how to get clients on Instagram and I know how to create offers and I know how to create content. So maybe I'll just teach people that. And so then that's been the unfolding of that. And now it's just over. So that's been the last like 2.5 years. And over then, it just keeps getting more specific and more aligned to who I actually want to help and who actually gets the best results from the work that we do together. Because to me, there's no reason, and like someone who, I always say I call out people, I'm very direct in my messaging. And I say, this is for the woman who wants to build $1 million plus brand. Not every woman wants to build $1 million plus brand, and that's okay. But she's going to be better off with somebody else versus me because I'm teaching you how to build these massive communities and create so much volume and really just build your own empire. Whereas if you don't want to do that, then we're not going to work well together. And so I've learned on this journey that the more that I work with the people who light my soul on fire, then
Mm,
my soul
yeah.
feels lit on fire, their soul feels lit on fire. And it's like this give and take and give and take and give and take. And it's this equal balance and it's just beautiful. And so that's how it's kind of unfolded.
Okay, so I have a question because this is something that comes up for me, especially when it comes around business, and just focusing a lot on, for me, like the ego. And my definition of the ego is kind of the persona where we identify so strongly with our external things as us. So the roles that we play, or the things that we own, or how much money we have in our bank account. So to me, that's kind of the ego. So, as a coach, where business is focused so much on clients or customers and money, how do you navigate the ego in your work where so much of the energy and message online seems to be wrapped up in amplifying and identifying with it?
I think that for me, I always tell people, I don't care where you are, but I care that you know where you're going. And I think the ego gets a bad rep because it's like a lot of like philosophies say, we need to shut down the ego. The
Yeah,
ego's
kill the
negative.
ego.
Yeah, kill the. I don't believe that. I believe that the ego is a part of us, and it's a part of us to be loved and nurtured and cared for. And and in that loving, nurturing, and caring shifts the vibration of the ego. Right. And it's all, to me, I see everything as not a thing, but as a frequency, as an energy. And so for me, it's not about how much money do you have in your bank account. It's what makes your soul feel free and alive. And if that's having $1 million in your bank account, amazing. Let's get you there. But at the same time, you have to you have to fall in love with the journey. Because if you're only going to a destination which is ego driven, then you're going to get to and if you hate your life because you don't have the $1 million or you don't have whatever goal you're going for, the clients or whatever, and if you think that it's going to be different when you get the client, I've been there and it's not. It's the same. And so you have to choose to feel how you want to feel right now. And that's a choice. And then the quicker that you choose to be that frequency of that feeling. So, how would you feel with $1 million? Oh, you're going to feel freedom. You're going to feel excitement. You're going to feel options. You're going to feel liberated. Okay, how can you feel that right now? Because it's not that thing that's going to get you that feeling. It's you choosing to feel that way is what's going to bring that. And that comes from a heart led, soul led idea of mind, right? It's getting out of your mind because the truth is you're going to get to the destination. If you keep putting one step forward every single day, you're going to get there. But if you're only feeling the way that you want to feel when you get there, it's going to be so fleeting. And that's when the ego comes in and says, well, what's next? I got to $1 million. So what's next? And you don't even get to enjoy that, right? I have so many clients who do that. They're like, well, I just had this incredible day. And then the next day comes and they're like, well, now I hate life because I didn't have that incredible day today.
Or they have to now do more,
Yeah.
right? It's like, well, yesterday I made X amount, and I need to do
They're going to make more.
more, yeah,
And
in
it's
order to be
like,
happy again, kind of chase that satisfaction.
yeah. And so for me, I've had to learn because I've been through such depths and I had to show up. I had to pay my rent, right? And so I had to show up and help people live their best lives while I was literally just trying to figure out how I was going to pay my rent. And so in that, I had to live this duality of here I am, come live your best life. And then in it, I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? Right. And so it's like I literally had to embody the work of being the person that is a millionaire before the 3D actually shows up. And to me, that's moving from your heart and moving from your soul rather than your ego is telling you, well, if it's not there, then we're not that. And my heart says, no, I am actually that. I'm already that. And then we move as that, we feel as that, we live our life as that, and then we create that.
So you mentioned earlier about, plant medicine has been a part of your um, dismantling of what you initially thought you were. But the most important thing that I've ever learned when it comes to anything dealing with a substance is the integration portion of it, right? Like these things kind of expose certain things to you, but then you have a choice of whether or not you want to dive into it or kind of go back into the way that you used to be. So outside of sitting with plant medicine, what have you found to be a very helpful practice or way to regain centered when you're embodying these emotions of joy or excitement that is what you're really going after as what people think is going to bring that to them. So what have you done to help bring that into your life on a daily basis?
Something that I do every day, the first thing that I do every day is I wake up and I choose that this is going to be the best day of my life, no matter what happens. And then I'm going to choose to be 10% better than I was yesterday, whatever that means. How can I choose to show up 10% better than I did yesterday? And not in an ego driven way, but just in a way of This is my life, and we're getting better and better and better every single day. And so how can I choose to show up as if this is the best day of my entire life, no matter what? And that is just that practice right
Mm.
there. It's a simple choice. It's not like I'm sitting there for 10 minutes and I'm doing my breath work and I'm visual. Like, yes, I do those things too. But to me, and I think this can be triggering to some people, is every single thing in life is a choice. And so if you choose how you want your life to go, then you become the creator of your life. And we all have the ability to do that. And so that's the first thing I do every morning. And that's the first thing I teach my son to do. The second I wake him up, he's all, he's 11. So he's like, I don't want to wake up. I'm like, yes, you do. Yes, you do. This is the best day of your life. And he's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, yeah. So how are you going to get up and live it? He's like, oh, you're right, Mom. And I'm like, yeah, so let's go. What are we grateful for? Let's keep moving. Let's keep going. Because so many times, like, people get stuck in the victim. They think they don't have a choice and they think life is happening to them. And the truth is you're creating it all.
I really like the spin that you did there when it came to, I've heard live today as if it's your last day. To me, that is a scramble. That's fear. It's like,
Yeah.
shit, I only have so much time left. So to me, that seems really retractive. And then the verbiage that you use, which is something I've been really focusing on and learning how to be better at, is making that little shift. Like, today's the best day
Yeah.
of your life
Yeah.
versus the last day. And so to me, that opens up the ability to breathe. It actually invites oxygen in versus depletes you. And so I appreciated that. So yeah, I'm going to start using that.
And it
in the
gives you a
mornings.
chance to be in the moment. Like, if this is the best day of your life and we're sitting on this podcast, are you going to come in nervous? Or are you going to be like, I'm going to slay this podcast. It's going to be so amazing. I'm going to go get my favorite treat after. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go to, like, you're going to think differently than just being on autopilot, right? And telling the same story of, I'm nervous to go into a podcast. No, you're not.
So for instance, I mean, that was one of the first things I told you I'm like, I'm nervous. So one, I want to own how I'm feeling in the moment, to be like, okay, for me, like, that helps me move energy a little bit. But then do I want to hold on to it, or can I just be like, okay, like, this is something that I want to accept and honor, that this is what's coming up in me, but then also I am not this thing. So how would you recommend for someone like myself or anyone that's doing something new and all these uncomfortable, turbulent emotions kind of rise up in them, that can usually sabotage maybe the experience in the
Yeah.
present moment?
Yeah.
So what's something that you do that's really helpful to kind of come back to that present moment and maybe just allow for you to embrace it versus really clam up?
So I love that question. Something that I believe so much. Well, my favorite word is abracadabra. And the definition of abracadabra is I create as I speak, right? When you say abracadabra, you think of a magician. Abracadabra,
Mhm.
they wave the wand, they create magic. So with I translate that would be like, if you look online, that's what it'd say. I say, with my words, I create. And so when I feeling, so yes, acknowledge your feeling, feel the feeling. But so often we create stories and narratives that go on and on and on because we keep saying the words, with my words, I create. So I'm nervous. What are you going to keep creating? You're going to keep creating these nerves. And so I say, feel it. And so, and an exercise that I do is just, I breathe in for 5 and I breathe out for 5. And I just feel my body start regulating. And instead of being stuck on how I feel, because that can kind of start like a rat race in the mind, right? And so instead of focusing on that, focus on the thoughts, because the thoughts are creating the emotion. And so if you can get into your breath, and like sometimes when you have that anxiety, that nervousness, you feel it like here and it's just kind of like tense and tight. And so then when you really breathe 5 in for 5, out for 5, and do that, 10 times, however many times you need, then you get into the thoughts in your mind. Then you can start to rationalize with your emotions. Okay, so we're feeling nervous because I have this story, because I have this story, because of this story, this story. Okay, What if I look at that story? Is that actually the truth? Right? Maybe the truth is, oh, Kenzie's going to think something of me. What if Kenzie thought something of me? Then what? Then she thought something. Oh, nothing? Okay. Right. And then you start to make sense of these stories, but really just an emotion is created from a story that you tell yourself. And so if you can get clear on the stories and say, oh, okay, why am I actually feeling that way? And less identifying with the feeling, more being in the moment and saying, what's the story that's creating this? Then that's going to change so much for you, right? And then you can come in. So something I did when I first started this practice is I might tell the person, I was, 10 minutes ago, I was feeling so nervous because I was thinking that this podcast episode was going to suck and everything was going to go wrong. And isn't that so funny? And then the person's like, yeah, let's make this so good, right? And it's like, you just go through that process. You be vulnerable with people and you sometimes we hide things because for me, I'm so sensitive to energy. So anytime anyone's thinking something that's making them feel a certain way, I know it. And so I love to just call it out like, hey, what are you thinking? Hey,
Yeah.
what's going on? And a lot of times people, maybe they're not even aware until I said something. And then they're like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, and I always tell my son, like, this is the best day of our lives. And so do we want to spend our time feeling this way? Or do we want to choose a different feeling that feels better? Because like I said, emotions, they last 90 seconds. That's the whole physiology of an emotion. But we grasp onto it and we create a story about it and how there's so much pain and suffering and this needs to go on. And what about this and that? And what about this and that? And then the emotion goes on and on and on and on. And as soon as we know it, we're depressed. But that all started from a choice to think a thought that created an emotion. Then we didn't let go of it. We didn't get it out of our bodies. Like literally when we speak things, and I did say abracadabra with my words I create, but it's okay to speak the things out. Say, I want to get this out of me. I don't want this to fester inside of me. Can we talk about this?
Yeah, that's where I'm learning how to do, because I just would hold things in a lot, right?
Yeah.
And just not allow for that energy to move. So just kind of clenching down and biting my tongue. And then my tendency would be to avoid and then never really come back to it. And so versus I know some people, they can't help but speak it, but there can be a lot of collateral damage too when they are just reacting to the emotion versus maybe creating a little bit of pause or space in between the initial thought or the feeling and then the reaction.
Something I've learned is because I'm very emotional. I'm very expressive. And if you know me, you'll always know how I'm feeling because it will just be all over my face. But what I've learned is because I used to be very emotionally dysregulated. And for me, it's about 24 hours. If something feels really deep and it's really bringing up a lot of thoughts in my mind and I'm creating all these stories about it, okay, let's breathe. Let's come to our center. Let's wait for about 24 hours. And if in 24 hours, this is still feeling the same way and I haven't done the work on myself to work through it, then I'm going to talk about it with somebody. But if before then, I've understood myself enough to know I'm going to react if I do it before then because I feel all this emotion and I feel like, and a lot of times when we feel all that emotion and when we feel this pressure to get it out, like anxiety to get it out, then it's like literally dumping on someone else. And you either need a therapist for that, but not a partner, not a friend, not a coach, not anyone other than a therapist is for dumping on, is what I've learned. And so wait for 24 hours. It's going to be okay. Right. And go live your life. Go make your inner child happy. That's who's feeling all the things when it's so intense. So for me, it's so nice having a kid, right? Ask your kid if you don't know how to make your inner child happy, go ask your kid, what do you want to do? They want to go to the park. They want to get ice cream. They want to play Play-Doh. Like that's what your inner child wants to do. And that's who's really feeling all those intense emotions. And so take care of that person before you dump it on somebody else, because then you're going to come from this adult, right?
What's your definition of the inner child? Because I know for some that are in this work that's something that comes up quite a bit. But for someone who's unfamiliar with what that means, could you express what you mean by that?
Yeah. So inner child it's like a metaphor for your younger self who lives inside of you. And it's your younger self who did not understand emotions, who did not understand how to regulate themselves, who did not get their needs met, period. Right. And it doesn't mean that you had bad parents. It doesn't mean anything other than the child inside of you at that time in life didn't have their needs met. And so because of that, they've created a story that now lives in your mind, that now creates an emotion in your body. And you get reminded of that every time something similar happens that happened when you didn't get your needs met. And that could have been, your mom showed up 20 minutes late for school when she's always on time. And so then you felt abandoned, you felt scared. And so now every time someone's late, then all of a sudden you're triggered and all this stuff is going off in your, this person doesn't care for you. And all these stories that you start creating, well, that's the child inside of you. And a lot of times people want somebody outside of them to take care of that child, but it's literally a metaphor. And so the only person who can take care of it is you. And so that's where we go into reparenting. And reparenting is something that has changed my life. And it's literally sitting with that inner child inside of you, you have the cutest kiddos. And just like when you're a little kiddo, if she's going through an emotion, you're not going to expect her to sit there and rationalize with herself for 24 hours. But you get to sit there and coach her through that. You get to sit with her and hold her hand and talk to her about it and see what's going on with her. That's what you get to do to yourself. It's nobody else can do that. Just like I can't go and tell Ro, hey, let me rationalize. She's not going to want to talk to me.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I was reminded of kind of circling back to, the ego and how it gets a bad rap. And so I love this quote where that the ego doesn't want to be healed, it wants to be held.
Yeah.
And so this idea of inner child work, of just being able to kind of wrap your your imaginary arms around your little self to kind of give it the comfort that maybe it needed but couldn't express or didn't understand, or was unavailable to them at the time.
Yeah.
And so that's really, really important, that and it's a good reminder too. So I appreciate you shedding light on what the inner child is. So really quick, it sounds like your clients are all female. Is that
I'm
accurate?
actually getting a lot of gay men.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So women and gay men is who I work with.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with your clients, what do you feel they're needing most? Is there a particular theme or thing that they are coming to you with that you just feel like, once again, okay, this is kind of the thing that a lot of people are carrying around or that's a blind spot for them?
Yeah. I think this can go in business or in anything else in life. But the biggest thing that I see in my business world is people are searching for a strategy or for something, or the metaphor that I see for that is an answer outside of you. And there's something that if I had this, then I would be better. If I could do it her way, then I would get there. Oh, I'm going to go buy that course because that has the answer for me. And so if I go buy that course, then I'm going to do it better. And then it's always looking for something outside of you to get you to where you want to be, when the truth is you have everything you need inside of you right now to have everything that you ever wanted in life. And so it's, rather than looking outside of you for the answer, what we need to do is we need to go inward and we need to say, what do I want to do? Because the thing about a strategy is, or the thing that worked for that person is because they're a unique person and that's why it worked for them. And the definition of a strategy is it worked for one person. And so there's literally 8 billion strategies out there. And there's a reason for that, is because everybody gets to do it their own way. And so everyone's saying, well, so-and-so's podcast does it this way, and so I better do it this way. And so-and-so's business does it this way, and so I better do it that way. And then they make their content that way, and so I should do it that way. And it's like, it's not going to work for you because you're not them, and you don't carry the same frequency as them. And so your codes are all inside of you. And when you realize that and you stop looking outward for the answer, you're going to quantum leap so fast because you just literally just be yourself. That's the answer to all the things in life, is just be you, just be who you authentically are every single day. And the more that you do that, the more success you're going to have, because nobody can replicate that. Not AI, nothing. It's just you being you is like the answer to the world.
What would you say to someone who doesn't know who they are or has a story that they don't know who they are?
Yeah. Human design is something that helped me explore who I am so much. I think it's a tool that everybody should know and understand. And because human design, if you don't know what it is, it's basically like a mashup of astrology, the Chinese I Ching, quantum physics, the Hindu chakra system, and it blends everything all together. All you do is put your birthday time and place in, and it literally gives you a blueprint to being your best self and to who you are and how your energy moves through the world. Changed my life when I learned about my human design, because I'm a manifester in human design. That's 8% of people. And so when I learned that, oh my gosh, because I used to grow up with this belief that there's something wrong with me. Why am I so different than everybody else? Why does that work out for everyone else? And then when I do it, it doesn't work. And I can still, this is just unconsciously bred into my mind. And so I still notice myself doing that, right? When I finally catch on, of course, it's like deeper levels now, but I think that's something that I'll probably experience my whole life. But when I come back to the remembrance of, oh, it doesn't work for me because I'm not like everybody else. And that's my superpower, and that's okay. And so, like, for a lot of people, you can maybe go out there and find the strategy that works for other people, and it might work for you. But when there's 25% of the world who's a projector, manifestor, reflector, different than a generator type, it's not going to work for us. And so for us, it's literally about finding out who you are and how your energy best works with the world. And for me, the best tool is human design.
All right. I've done that. Well,
What are you?
Briefly, but I'm going to now go revisit that.
What are you?
A projector.
Okay.
And, I feel like I can imagine all of the steps. And this is actually one reason why it's taken me so long to even start a podcast, is it's like, ooh, that's exciting. Shit, that's a lot of work, And then I'm thinking of all the steps and all the things that are as hurdles or as obstacles rather than opportunities.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I'm learning, is like, oh, that's been an old method to keep me entrapped in my old stories or in my own like revolving patterns, is anything that's different is an obstacle versus an opportunity for growth. And so therefore there's already resistance there at the very beginning. So then it's going to be that much harder because I've just kind of declared it to be harder. And so now I'm like, oh, okay, I get an opportunity today to learn more about myself through this process and project called a podcast. And I don't know where it's going to go, but I've already learned so much about myself, and to be able to spend time with individuals that, I respect or want to get to know on a deeper level is just been quite rewarding. Yeah. And so, it's just these little presents on a daily basis that is giving me the courage and the momentum to keep going.
Yeah. And right here is where we get to go back to the beginning of loving yourself and loving exactly where you are in the journey, because you're just starting your podcast. And I always say this, I say it sucks to suck. It
Yes.
sucks to
my
suck.
my ego hates sucking. Let's put it that way.
Everybody's does. It sucks to suck, but the only way to get good at something is to first suck. Everybody goes through that. Like, there's no one person out there who you look up to, who's incredible at what they do, that didn't first suck. And the thing is it's about loving that part of the journey, because you're going to get there. You're going to have 1 million subscribers or whatever it is you want. You will get there. But you have to start somewhere, and it's about loving exactly where you are and knowing that you don't have to be perfect. Like, this is a very feminine way of being like, I'm going to be messy and I'm going to show up and I'm going to just do the thing, and it might suck and we might not have the video here, and it might, like, maybe the sound went out and maybe I didn't edit it perfect, and maybe, but guess what? One person listened, and then they shared it with their friend, and then they shared it with their friend, and then it creates this domino effect. And you loving exactly where you are is literally what's going to propel you forward so fast, rather than trying to be the expert, trying to be the person, trying to be the Joe Rogan or whoever it is. Right?
For me, it's just pretending, right? In some ways, right? Just being like, hey, this is, and that's something that I'm personally craving for myself in my personal life, as well as individuals that I meet, is having more candid, authentic, and just raw conversations about like what's going on. And that way there's a deeper connection and understanding. And to me, relatability is really huge. It's a huge value of being able to just relate to people and say like, oh, this person is successful and they still don't have all their shit together.
Yeah.
They're still moving through things. And so to me, that is encouraging, and that is bravery. And, rather than just saying, oh, this person has success, maybe one day, and just using that as a weight to then keep you entrenched in your own sorrows.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
this is great. Okay. So I do have a question.
Okay. Love your questions.
Thank you. Confusing. Well, actually, no, before I even start there, I was looking on your Instagram and I really like this question. Is this an investment or a debt to my future?
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by that?
Yeah. So people create a lot of stories about money, right? And what it means. And the truth is it means it's nothing. It only means what you make it mean. That's all money is. Outside of that, money is a number on a screen or a piece of paper. You put meaning into money. And so when I say, when I spend money now, I always think of, when I spend it, I say, is this going to be an investment in my future self? Or is this a debt to my future self? And so, for example, I'll share a different example than I did on that Instagram post. But for example, let's say, so for me is like, okay, if I'm going to invest, I love investing in mentorship. That's something I highly value, because to me, I see that as a shortcut. And so that is a huge invest. Okay, maybe that's going to put me into a little bit of debt for the moment, but I know that if I sign up for this person who's where I want to be, and I have this person in my vortex close to me, because I believe you are the sum of the 5 people that you are around the most. So put yourself in the room with the people that you want to be like, and soon enough you become like them. And so that's an investment in my future self. I might be in debt for a minute, and that I've learned to be okay with that, because I know it's going to propel me forward. But something else, so say you're at dinner with your friends and everybody's getting a drink, and tomorrow you have a podcast interview, but everybody's getting a drink, and that sounds so fun. And you in the present moment is like, I really want to have the drink with my friends because I don't want to have FOMO and I want to have fun. But then you tap into your future self, and it's $10. What it's not a debt, right? It's $10. That's fine. But then you tap into your future self and you say, what do you think? And your future self says, well, I have a podcast interview tomorrow. I really love being sharp. I love being on point. I love having a clear mind. And so what if we just had a cute soda with a lime and a cute glass instead? And that right there is the investment. right?
I like that also you're still rewarding yourself with some sort of treat, but it's a shift similar to earlier about living your, the best day of your life
Yeah.
rather than saying, no, I'll just have the water. It's like, well, I can still have something that maybe excites me or something I can try different. So I do like that you're
Yeah.
still rewarding yourself and experiencing something potentially new or socializing and being a part of something versus completely ostracizing yourself away from opportunities.
Yeah. And you're giving yourself that opportunity to sit in the discomfort of maybe not fitting in with everybody and not being at the level that, even one drink puts people at. And
Hmm.
you're sitting in that discomfort for the moment because you know that that's an investment in yourself. Whereas having the drink would have in that moment would have been a debt to yourself.
So this leads me into my next question. When it comes to, and this is a lot of these questions are personal, by
That's okay.
the way, but confusing complacency with contentment.
Mm.
So, when it comes to, uh, moving forward or realizing like, ooh, okay, there are certain things like I would love to try and do, but then things that I would do is start looking for like, things that, oh, well, a, a business that's doing well. I have a beautiful family. I have all these things that are really great things. And then I would use that to then not try, just be like, oh, okay, see, it's good. And then I would get scared. So how would you coach someone who might be thinking that like, ooh, okay, so my life's pretty good. It's not horrible. And usually if it's horrible, that's can be a really big catalyst for people because they're like, this is not enough. But what about someone who's listening who has a fairly comfortable life with their needs are being met and things are relatively good?
Yeah. So I would ask yourself, I would say, ask your soul, does your soul come here to be comfortable and relatively good and complacent and plateaued? Or did your soul come here to experience the greatness of life?
Mm,
And you get to answer that.
yeah, definitely not the complacent part.
Yeah.
So, and so that's something that's good. And that requires also, I'm even just asking the question, I can definitely feel a shift, right? And so to me, that's a signal, a message, right? Just being like, ooh, okay, there's something here. And it's light. It's not heavy. It's not like, oh shit, But so I do appreciate the question that opens up more doors like you do versus ones that, is a very tight shut, locked door that you don't really want to look behind because of all of the stories and the fears that you have behind that perceived door that isn't even there. It's probably unlocked, but you just think it's locked.
Yeah.
So I love that question. Hmm. Okay. I'm pausing on that for a minute.
Take all the time you need,
No,
Mr.
no,
Projector.
no, yeah, right. This is fantastic. Okay. Well, I'm looking through my notes here. And what would you say is your top strength that draws individuals to seek your help?
What would I say?
Hmm.
Probably my self leadership, my ability to go first.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah. I mean, it's very manifestory of me, but I think what draws a lot of people to my world is just it's kind of like what you talked about before is like you're always pivoting, you're always doing whatever you want. You're always just doing how do you do that? And it's like, well, I just do it. What do you mean? How do I do it? And I think people don't understand a lot of people don't understand that. And so they come into my world to understand that. Like, oh, well, I don't want to be doing this thing anymore. How do I stop doing that thing and do what I actually want to do? Well, you just do. You just choose. And it gets to be as simple as that if you want it to be. And so I think that's my greatest superpower is just leading myself in that way. I say, who Who do we need to be today to make an impact? We need to be, for me, a lot of what, like when I going back to human design, when I look at my human design, a lot of my design is about what does Kenzi want to do? And when Kenzi does what she wants to do, she becomes this walking permission slip for everybody else to then do what they want to do. And so it's not so much like it's all about me. That would have been me and my, when I was a child, is how I saw things. But now it's like it's all about me, because the more that I make it all about me, the more that gives you permission to empower yourself to do what you want to do and to do what God, the universe, whoever you believe in, put you on this planet to do. And so in that, it's just me leading myself, right? I choose to wake up every day and have the best day of my life. I choose to wake up every day and go sell on my Instagram, because that's my business, because that's what my people are watching me, and I'm the leader. And so if I'm telling them to do all these things, but then I'm not showing up and doing all these things, and they're not going to trust me, and I'm not going to be able to build a business. And so it's really about, okay, like, how do I want to show up today? And that's what I'm going to show up as. And, I've talked about this a lot here. It's all a choice. And that when you can accept that truth, that everything in your life is a choice, it's so empowering, because it's like, oh my gosh, if everything's a choice, then what am I going to choose today?
How often do you run into your clients that have a lot of guilt for focusing their attention on themselves? They think it's
Most
selfish.
generator types.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most people. Yeah.
So generators are part of the human design.
Yeah.
Is that what you're referring
Yeah.
to? All right.
Mm-hmm. So that would be like 75% of people would be a generator. And mostly generators, I find this a lot, it's a very big trend, is focusing on you means selfish, and selfish means bad. And the way I look at selfish is I encourage you to be selfish, and not in an ego way, but in a way of when you're happy and when you're vibrating at a higher frequency, that's going to emit outwards. And the more that you can emit that energy outwards, the more that other people can then calibrate to that energy. And the more that we're all doing what makes us happy, and not in a way that's making somebody else not happy, but in a way of, at the same time, like I said before, if you don't like what I'm doing, then get off the train, because it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me, and this is my life and my train, and that's how I'm moving forward. And there's room for you on this train too, but you got to do you. I have a lot of people who come into my world and they want to be like me. So then they want to copy me, and then they want to act in the way that I act, and that's not aligned for most people. And so for most, and also as a manifestor, I'm here to initiate things. So I'm here to start things. That's my superpower, is starting and initiating. Whereas most of the world who would look at that as selfish, they're here to respond to things. And so I think that's the magic of me working with most other people, is I initiate you into saying, hey, why don't you go be selfish today? Why don't you go do what you want to do? And then you get the chance to respond to that. Or like for you, I would invite you in. Hey, David, why don't you go be selfish today? What would make David so happy today if he just let go of what anybody else thought? I want to invite you to do that today.
Now I'm thinking what I would do. What would I do? I'd go in the mountains, probably. That's what I'd do. Just in nature.
Yeah, and go do it. Why wouldn't you?
Well, I could do that potentially later tonight after the kids are down.
Yeah. Or take them with you.
Little tricky today, but yes, I could potentially do that for sure. Or just be outside. For me, sunshine is happiness. Yeah. So at the very least,
work, right? And find a way, right? Because it's all a choice. And the more that you're happy, I promise you, the more your kids will be happy.
That I do believe for sure. Absolutely. Well, that's something too. And maybe you can shed light on this. I'm learning a lot too, that even though kids, they might not understand your words, they're always going to pick up on your energy and remember the energy that you held versus maybe the things that you were saying. And so that is for sure been something that I am more aware of, that I really want to make sure that I begin to shift in a way that is more positive and less heavy than it has been in the past. Because, if all you're ever doing is on your phone or doing tasks to really keep yourself busy to avoid, I think they're going to be like, oh, well, why have you been absent? Something must be more important than me. And then whatever story they have around, and that they'll create around that, they'll take with them. And so at least, becoming more vibrant and almost in tune with myself and emotionally available to myself, I'll be able to be more emotionally available to my children.
Absolutely.
But that, being a guy, there have been definitely roadblocks with feeling in the body, right? And being so in my head and then being afraid to feel. So, have you, it seems like you feel very freely and very easily. What do you like with clients that aren't feeling very much or block a lot? How do you begin to let them become a little bit more loose and allow for things to flow?
A lot of times sometimes people, if they talk a lot, talk and talk and talk, talk, talk,
Mm-hmm.
I will call someone, I will ask them to pause. Hey, let's pause. And I want you to close your eyes and I want you to tell me what's going on in your body right now.
You did that to me actually when I had a call with you. I was chattering and you're like, cool, close your eyes. And that actually, I remember that has been a big thing that stuck with me is pausing and closing my eyes, because it really helps get me, or at least help me get in tune.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could totally relate and agree by that too.
And yeah, and I think the world is moving so fast that sometimes we tell a story that I can't pause and I just have to keep going. And it's a very masculine way of being, right? Of just go, 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 hustle, hustle, work through this, go, go, think, 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 think. And it's very feminine, which is what most people are not taught. I definitely was not taught this. And as a child, I never expressed anything. And so now as an adult, it's, if you're someone who tends to be in your head a lot, which most 95% of people probably are, pause, breathe. Like literally come into your body. And in the moment that you do that, when you get out of your head, you're going to like literally feel your body like, it's like a deep breath, right? It feels so good. It's like when you lay your head down on the pillow, but you can do that. You can get that feeling at any moment by just slowing down, right? Being slow and being more feminine, which doesn't mean a woman. It just means more flowing, less logical, linear, because the truth is, in my mind, logic and linear is made up. Someone made up the idea that that was logical and that was linear.
And we've
And
adopted it as that.
yeah, and now society says that that's what it is, and it's not the truth. I'm like, who started that? And to me, and that's a question I ask myself all the time, is when I get stuck in a way of being, is where did this come from? Like, who told me that this was the right way? And what if it's not? What if it's the opposite? And sometimes that can get like, the more that you ask yourself that question, then the more like loony bin life starts to become. And you start to realize that you're literally just playing a game. And it's called the game of life. And how do you want to show up for it? And do you like, that's how I see reality is it's just a game. We're all playing a game and we all have a character. And how do you want to show up today? It's like Sims. Literally is what life is.
So when it comes to, you coming onto this podcast, what do you hope that someone that's listening will take away the most out of the things we've discussed? What's been the most important thing that you feel is, one thing that people could really take away?
Well, understand your human design. I know we didn't talk about that a lot, but I just think that is it's something that's changed my life entirely. And I think if you think of humanity as an 8 billion piece puzzle and your human design is your puzzle piece, and when you understand your puzzle piece and you put it in the right spot on the puzzle, then if everybody does that, humanity can be whole. But until we do that, we're living how we're living right now. And it's very messy. And we're all trying to be somebody else's puzzle piece. And just like in a puzzle, even if one puzzle piece and another one look similar, they don't go in the same spot. The puzzle can't be whole unless you find your spot. And so understand your human design. And another thing is pause. Go slower. Life is already so fast. We're all just speeding through life, just trying to get to the destination when really the journey is everything.
As cliche as that is, it's true.
Yeah. Cliche or not, someone just told you that it was cliche. I don't think it's
Yeah,
cliche.
and then I believed it, right?
Yeah. But
Oh.
it's literally fall in love with the journey of becoming you. Because you are the most incredible, unique creature that's ever existed. There's never been anybody like you, and there never will be. And so fall in love with the journey of becoming you, not of getting to some place.
That's so good. I appreciate you coming on tonight.
I appreciate you inviting me.
And where could people that are listening find you if they are interested in working with you or want to follow you and continue this amazing message and insights that you have?
Yeah, the best place to find me is on Instagram at I am Kenzi Rose. And I'm sure he'll put it in the show notes or something like that. And that's the best place to find me. I'm always there, always on Instagram. That's my platform. Love Instagram. So come find me there. And yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming today.
You're welcome.
I appreciate your time. And I look forward to actually having you on again at some point.
Yeah, let's
and
do
just kind of see when maybe the video will work completely through the whole thing. But it's part of the journey.
It is.
So thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me, David.